Welcome to Great Match Generator, the the podcast where where we look at great matches and see what makes them great. I'm your host Danny Kukler here. I'm here with Beast Mike and Greg. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It took a little bit to get back home from the middle of Pennsylvania, but we made it back home. We made it back home, and now we're relaxing on an off night and on a relatively quiet night, I would say.
Yeah, relatively quiet night. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing good because Big Ten football is back.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we do get our Penn State football after all. Literally a month away from tonight, we will have our Penn State football back. They will be playing Indiana week 1. And 8 games, 8 weeks. Nebraska wanted all the smoke, and the Big Ten responded, "You get Ohio State week 1." So
Yep.
Basically starting a month late, but they're going to cut out the non-conference and the bye weeks to compensate. So
yes,
Yep. And unfortunately, Notre Dame had a COVID outbreak.
you got
Yeah.
seven players testing positive for COVID, and then they chalked up the game with Wake Forest. I think they're gonna try to play the game. It's a matter of
On
just
December 12th.
okay.
The
They've
week,
already
yeah, they are
the week before the playoffs, the week before the championship Saturday. Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
so 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 we have 4 great matches for you today. Undertaker versus Mankind from King of the Ring 1998, Pittsburgh. Um then we have the ultimate, one of my favorite matches from the 2010s, CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. I really love this thing. Just a spoiler alert there. Um, then we have Yoshiaki Fujiwara versus Super Tiger. And then we have from UWF December 5th, 1984. And then from Wrestle War 1990, Rock and Rolls versus Midnight. So, where do we want to begin?
We were kind of getting in the flow of Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, we were, just to pull back the curtain, we tried to record, and I my internet connection pooped out. So just to pull back the curtain a little bit, but this Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Mankind is really, really good. It's not just the 2 bumps.
No. It's a full on 20-minute match after the bumps. The bumps started the match. They literally started the match with the 2 most iconic moments in the match. Well, 2 of the 3. The other one being Foley with the tooth up his nose, being the other iconic moment of the match. We get to see that visual. But they literally started the match with the 2 bumps, and it's like, I think the thing that got my attention the most from this, Foley wouldn't stay down. He just would not stay down.
Because the first of the bumps was planned, from what I'm to understand. The second one wasn't. And I honestly couldn't tell who of all the people that ran out, because like Terry Funk runs out, Sergeant Slaughter, Vince, etc. Who is legitimately concerned? Who like wants to stop this? And who is just kind of acting, and what's kayfabe and what's not? I honestly couldn't tell.
Yeah, this was
good.
This was the defining match of McFoley.
Yeah,
but
that's absolutely. I think there's a part of this. Didn't Foley kind of convince Undertaker to do the bumps? Like, what the bumps Foley's idea?
I think so, because I think one of them is scared of heights, and like didn't want to do it at all. But I forget who it was. But I know I've said on on previous versions of this, I'm really way more into the spectacle than the actual in-ring work, and this match was just all spectacle. Whether it was planned or not, everything about it was spectacle, from the entrances to the bumps to the freaking out by officials, and of course JR's commentary. Oh my goodness,
legendary.
JR's commentary here. This is
An
the
all-time
prime
soundbite.
JR we really get.
An all-time JR peak of powers. Yeah, absolutely.
I killed him. He's broken in half.
As God is my witness, he was broken in half. And King following up too. And King following up as they go with it. Like, man, this is this is the Hell in a. There are good Hell in a Cells after this, but this is the one that stands the test of time, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think as I think the two that established Hell in a Cell were the first one and this one. The first one established that you could have a psychological, very good, complete match. And then this one was the spectacle where you had the bloody Foley smile, you had the steel steps, you had the thumbtack spots.
Yeah, the
it's
chair.
A nasty little package that really stands the test of time.
This was the first time I think I saw thumbtacks outside of ECW. Like,
actually, I think that's the same for me.
And you could tell with commentary they were getting that over, even if it wasn't necessarily true. Like, it was just like, wait, what the heck are those thumbtacks? Oh my god! Like, they had never seen them before. And the human pincushion line.
Yeah, yeah. We're taking this as a backdrop. Yeah.
I have seen some brutal stuff, and like I said, I've seen these two bumps, but I don't think I've ever sat down and actually just watched this match all the way through. It was even more brutal than I anticipated. Like, you really did think Foley was like dead.
And I think it was well constructed too, considering all the downtime with the match, like with the two falls, of course. It was well constructed, and then they did the brawling inside the cell, and I felt like this is just top tier stuff. I should just change. I was like lukewarm on it. I was like more looking at it like this is a spectacle rather than this as a wrestling match. This is a 5-star spectacle, but as a wrestling match, it doesn't tick all the boxes per se.
Okay.
To me, like I know it's a weird nitpick, but sometimes it does lack in psychology.
Yeah.
For me, I think the psychology is the fact that Mick Foley's indestructible. Mick Foley's all but indestructible. I think that's the psychology in it. Is that Undertaker, who is this monster, 6'10", 7-foot monster, capable of dealing out all kinds of pain, and he's dealing with a man in Mick Foley who can take all kinds of pain. I think that's the psychology in it.
I understand that, but there are some subtleties in the match, like Undertaker working the arm after the two horrific bumps. You're like, that doesn't really make sense.
It really did, because here's something I didn't notice until this viewing was after the first bump, Foley is screaming, my arm, and all the officials are going.
I did not notice that.
I didn't check that. Oh, I didn't check that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When they're all huddled around the Spanish announce table, he's screaming about his arm, and the officials are going, I think it's his arm. I think that's the problem. And even when he gets off the stretcher later, he's grabbing his arm. So then when Undertaker goes to do the old school,
right.
Foley desperately knocks him off instead of letting him do it to that arm. and then later he goes to pick something up. I think it was like the steps or whatever, and he just collapses.
He
So
just
that
couldn't do
was
it.
probably the arm.
Right.
I didn't. Yeah.
I did not pick up on that.
I wasn't catching that. Yeah, good catch.
Makes it a little better for me. So makes
So
it.
no, yeah.
One thing I've never noticed in a match before was they had very effective use of replays, because you were talking about the downtime, and there was a lot of downtime when Foley was on the ground.
It
but they
wasn't
would show those
overdone.
replays.
No.
I noticed that too. In one of my notes, I said it was very effective the way they used the replays.
Okay, let's show this incredibly iconic moment, but you don't have to. But it's not overkill. They didn't try to oversell it because it didn't need to be oversold. Because the crowd was nuclear hot for this, and the crowd sold it perfectly as it needed to be. So JR and King and everybody else in the production trucks, whatever, they didn't have to do too much. They just put it out there for everybody to see a couple times, and then cut back to live action where Foley's on the stretcher, and then once Foley gets off the stretcher, you can tell that the crowd was hyped for this. Like they couldn't believe that he A got up and B is trying to get back on top of the cell and encouraging Taker to get on top of the cell with him.
I also forgot they raised the cell.
Yeah.
With Undertaker still on it.
Right. They were going to chalk it up. They were going to chalk this up. Like, they didn't think Foley could get up. But it's like, no. Foley's like, let's keep going. We're going to keep going.
But I will say, I'm so glad they make cells better these days. You could see
they're way better now.
Putting this thing together and popping off as these guys are stepping on it.
They're way better now. Absolutely. They're much stronger.
That must have been scary as hell. And it made the match more dangerous, too.
Yeah, it definitely did.
So, overall, I'm going to change my rating to 4.5.
I'm thinking 4.3.
Had it at 4.25, but then once Greg was like, my arm, and then I sort of remembered that in the match, and then I was like, and so it wasn't just like Taker was working on the arm just to work on the arm. You know.
Okay.
You know, but this isn't like the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen. You know.
No.
But it is my style. This is definitely the type of thing I love. For me, this was a 5-star match.
And some people did go 5 on the greatest match ever poll.
Okay.
Some people had it at 5. So, Greg, you're not totally off.
I went 4.75. I'm gonna go 4.75 on it. I thought it is the quintessential Hell in a Cell. I think it is absolutely. Some people have their favorites. Like my favorite personally is the 6-man Hell in a Cell, but there are people who have their favorites. But this is the one that the first Hell in a Cell you think of when it comes to this match.
This is the first one you think of, and it stood the test of time. So
yes,
I agree with that. So Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk. I love his style match.
This was really good.
Like Punk made himself a believable Brock opponent, which not many people in this era of Brock, in like the 2012 to 2015 era of Brock.
Suplex City, the before Suplex City Brock, I would say, right?
Before the Suplex City, like, before Brock got a little lazy,
right,
and was actually structuring his matches very well. Punk was very smart.
This told a really good story to me of Punk trying to withstand all the abuse that Lesnar was giving him, plus the Heyman factor because Heyman had turned on him the month prior, and they cut classic promos against each other. it was, and then the match, the fact that there was no DQ, I think made it work, so they could get a bunch of stuff in. I thought that was great. It tells a really good story to me, and I think that's what really makes it stick.
This match still holds up.
It does. It definitely does. It absolutely holds up. Yes.
In my opinion. Sorry, Greg. Sorry, Greg. Go.
I was just going to say, I wasn't watching wrestling during the kind of CM Punk era. I pretty much missed the whole thing. And so I never really understood kind of the hype. Yeah, until literally I saw this match, and I was just instantly like, okay, I get it. Everything worked as he came to the ring, and then, like you said, the structure of it, he kind of played that quintessential babyface in peril. Like I didn't even need to know the background of him breaking up with Heyman or anything like that to know like Heyman's just being annoying here and trying to distract him and all this stuff. You could tell there's something there, there's history, but they didn't even need to like explain it or put it right in your face. The match just told the story in and of itself, which was awesome.
And it's more Punk versus Heyman than Punk versus Brock.
Right, yeah.
Using Brock, Heyman was using Brock to bully CM Punk.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I'll say one thing I instantly noticed was this looked like an actual fight. Like, we're going to talk about Jim Cornette later, but I know a lot of times he'll say on his podcast that something doesn't look believable. It doesn't look like two guys actually fighting. This looked like two guys fighting.
They were throwing hands, yeah. But Brock this is kind of Brock throwing hands and still kind of reacclimating himself to WWE. Kind of Brock. This wasn't wrestler Brock. This was UFC. This was UFC fight Brock.
And it wasn't even like just the strikes. It was like little subtle things, like the speed that Punk would go from one move to another. There was no hesitation. There was no like, oh, I'm setting this up. I'm doing my choreography. I'm remembering my next move. It was like, this is what a fighter actually would do. They'd go grab a weapon. They'd go to the top rope. They'd actually do this.
I would say they lead a little too much into the Heyman story, but I get why they did, because he had just turned on him. But from my personal viewing, I would rather have a clean finish than the finish they went with, and that's why.
Good.
And that's why and that was my only main issue with the match, because Brock can beat CM Punk on his own.
Right.
But the finish was even like really. This is a top 5 Brock match.
I totally agree with you about.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy this as a top 5 Brock.
I was going to say, I totally agree with you about Heyman interfering. I even had that in my notes here, that I don't like when managers interfere on behalf of a monster. Monsters aren't supposed to need this.
That's fair. And you know what? That is a fair criticism of the match. I understood it because of Heyman's turning on Punk the month prior, but yeah, I understand. I completely understand why. Like, why would you have Heyman get involved? But simple, it's to keep the heat going for Heyman and Punk, and ultimately Punk gets his revenge. But yeah, I totally get it. I totally get why he would go this route.
I got why Punk would get distracted and like go after Heyman. I didn't understand Heyman like breaking up a pinfall and throwing a few shots. Like, come on, you didn't need to do that.
That's probably fair. While we're stuck on the top 5 Brock matches, like, what are your top 5 Brocks? Because I would agree with you both that this is a top 5.
This match might be number 1. This match might be number 1. I gotta rewatch the rings.
Because other matches for me that come to mind are like Brock Brock Taker,
Brock
Hell in a
Taker.
Cell, absolutely is a lock in that top
Yeah,
five.
that's a lock on mine because I love that match.
Yeah, the Brock and Taker absolutely there. Um,
I
what
don't
else?
consider Brock Hurt to be that great match that some
Wait,
people
Brock and who?
Kurt.
Oh, for WrestleMania.
Oh, the
Good, but not great. I think it went on a little bit too long. Plus, that shooting star press was scary.
The only like early Brock match I would consider is the Taker. Then it's Brock Cena.
Brock Cena from SummerSlam. I think Brock AJ was better than Brock Orton.
No, I mean the first Brock Cena.
Oh, okay, okay.
The first one from Extreme Rules. That match.
Oh, 2012. Oh yeah, that was dope. Yeah, Brock's return. Yeah, that was dope. Yeah, we definitely adding that. Yeah, Brock Cena 2012. Brock Taker 02. This match with Brock and Punk. I go Brock AJ. I love that match from Survivor Series a couple years ago.
That was good.
I thought that was very well worked by Brock. Lesnar actually tried in that match, and it was really, really well worked. I would
think
say.
a couple of the recent Lesnar versus a little guy matches. He had a good one against Daniel Bryan too.
Yeah,
recently.
he did. Yeah, that was good. And
I
then
was expecting that match to be better. Knowing Bryan. But Brock's gotten lazy in the past few years. Relying on the suplexes a little too much.
I think part of what kind of kills the buzz for me on Brock Daniel is the fact that Daniel turned heel 2 days earlier. I think if Daniel not turned heel, I think that match would have been better. Because that match started so slow. And Daniel wrestled as a heel, and then you can see that he's wrestling as a face for the second half of the match. I wish they saved the heel turn for Daniel until later on. In the year. But he literally turned heel right before this. And I think that's what kind of killed the buzz for me with that particular match.
And this is the best match of SummerSlam 2013.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that. Because Cena Bryan was really good. Oh, that's so tough.
But this reaches heights that doesn't reach, in my opinion.
I think this got the crowd more involved. I mean, Cena Bryan got the crowd hype, but the crowd was definitely juiced for Bryan and Lesnar, for Punk and Lesnar. They were really ready for Punk to beat Lesnar.
Yeah, this was really good shit. Speaking of really good tag teams, Rock and Roll and Midnights. This is just comfort food tag team wrestling at its finest. Like, from a pure work rate point, not even like work rate as in like amount of moves or stuff like that, but the way they move in the ring, the way they
so fluid. They're fluid and crisp.
Fluid. They are. This may be the best Rock and Roll Midnight Express match we have on tape. And I can see why people call these two the greatest tag teams of all time, because two of the greatest tag teams of all time, because the subtleties here.
See, you guys are gonna hate me because I did not like any bit of this.
Oh wow!
Not at all. I didn't like anything about it. If this is what Jim Cornette likes, then boy, we are on two different planets. I mean, just starting out, I never understood the Midnight Express's gimmick. Just two robed guys, I guess, with awful 80s hair. I just don't get it.
But I think you have to get the Southern psychology and the Southern wrestling to get the Midnights.
And yeah, that's why I guess I must need that. Yeah, I wrote here, I feel like you really need to know the history of these teams to appreciate this match, and I don't. So
That kind of kills your buzz. Okay.
I really didn't know the history of these teams, but like,
Since you're a student of wrestling, you were able to get it right away.
Wrestling.
Like I felt going into, even though I did know a little bit more about them, going into the last two matches we just talked about, those matches to me just told their own stories. This one, you needed background. And so I was kind of lost. I didn't really understand. I always thought Cornette was associated with Rock and Roll Express, so here he is telling them that they suck, and competing against them, and I was just kind of like, now I'm really confused.
Cornette was always the manager of the Midnights.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So the Midnights were always the heels, the Rock and Rolls were always the baby.
Gotcha.
That's what you really need to know.
That makes sense.
And what you're saying about work rate and the fluidity, I get what you're saying, but to me, this looked more like a choreographed dance, whereas like the Brock and CM Punk fight, like I said, that felt like a fight.
That was a fight.
Like watching this,
it's an old sort of contradiction to what Cornette it's about Will Ospreay.
Yeah, in a real fight, though, you're not going to run the ropes and leapfrog and do all this other stuff, and shoulder tackles and whatnot. You're gonna punch and kick
you're punching, yeah.
but I think for the tag style of that match, and for like
that era.
For that era, this was basically Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros.
Okay.
Just 30,
basically,
yeah, it's 30 years before its time.
People were talking, and back in '86, when these two teams were in their primes, they were saying the Rock and Roll and the Midnights are ruining the business.
No, on the contrary, they kind of gave birth to that kind of fluidity and smoothness in tag team wrestling. In kind of business. And while we're stuck on tag team wrestling, we should all probably
But I think there's some psychology here too with the blind tag and Rock and Roll's like taking advantage early until Ricky Morton gets so enraged,
right?
And then Ricky Morton has the babyface apparel. Nothing better than that.
Yeah, I guess my issue, or a big issue I had, was that I'll listen to Jim Cornette just for the giggles. Danny and I were actually talking about this the other day. But I think I would have enjoyed this match if I wasn't sitting there the whole time thinking how hypocritical Jim Cornette is. Because this was, I think you're right, this did kind of remind me of a Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers match, which is why it should, like, Cornette should love that stuff, but he hates it.
He hates it.
Modern day Jim Cornette would absolutely hate this match. Like, let's start with the fact that couldn't touching the ref be a DQ? Like, he's a big stickler for the tag rules. He got in a fight with the referee. And he kept getting involved,
As you mentioned, you don't like the manager getting involved in matches.
Yeah, and you mentioned that I think it was the Robert Gibson hot tag.
I know Jim Cornette he's a carny. And
yeah. But I think you mentioned on the hot tag there, is that Robert Gibson that got that?
Robert Gibson.
He looks like the same size as all these AEW guys that Cornette makes fun of for being too small, and here he is running roughshod around the place, beating everybody up. And it's like, I don't know. I guess the hypocrisy.
I get it. That's good that you called him out on it. I think that's good.
I'm very proud that you said you're just like this feels like an AEW tag just 30 years ago, and
because almost all their tag matches are pure speed. Almost all of them are speed and fluidity, especially if they involve the Bucks, Kenny, or Hangman. But they are almost all pure speed. And the Lucha Bros, also the Lucha Bros, who are incredibly fast.
oh, you see, Cornette seems like doing some innovative moves for the time, and I'm like, you're like, why does Cornette hate the Bucks? This is so weird.
It is odd, isn't it?
It's odd.
While we're stuck on 80s tags, our condolences to Road Warrior Animal, who unfortunately passed away earlier today.
Yes.
Terrible. Another legendary 80s tag with the late great Hawk from Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. They were killing it in the 80s when they stormed through, especially in the Midwest, in Chicago and Minnesota and those areas. And then obviously they hit the main stage of WWE, and they were killing it there. They're one of the first tag teams that really grew up watching, I would say, AEW. Like, the Dudleys are my favorite tag team ever. LOD is probably in that top 5 for me. So I love watching LOD. Like, no matter which one of them got the hot tag, they killed it. And then the Doomsday Device is a legendary finisher, which is all time awesome. So rest in peace to Road Warrior Animal, who passed away earlier today. I saw some good tributes from some current wrestlers, and Bret Hart with a nice post on Instagram as well about how Road Warrior Animal kept in touch with him because of Bret battling cancer. How he showed love when Hart's family members passed away. So an unfortunate day in wrestling. So rest in peace to a Road Warrior Animal.
Here's a ceremonial what a rush.
Yes. Yeah, we needed that. Yep. I think Paul Ellering had a nice tribute too, as well on social media. I think I saw that earlier today.
That is very nice. Rest in power to Road Warrior Animal. Let's move on to our last match, which is Yoshiaki Fujiwara versus Super Tiger.
I teased last week.
Watch this match first.
I teased last week.
I think this connected with me a little more than the Maeda.
Okay.
I still have an issue with the lack of charisma.
This was really straightforward.
But really, this is just like straight wrestling.
Yeah.
But this is actually one of the most influential matches of all time.
Okay.
Because this sort of set up for like the TKO.
And making the TKO a thing. A permanent thing.
Knockout a thing.
I mentioned last week, one kick set it off. One kick basically changed this match. Y'all saw that kick.
Because the first half of the match, Fujiwara controls.
Right.
Because and it sort of works in a pro wrestling manner.
Mm-hmm.
But with shoot moves. You know, you can tell a little bit that they're cooperating with each other, but it's not it's not
fluid. It's definitely not fluid.
It's not as fluid as fucking Will Ospreay.
No. I think that's what makes this match stand out. I think it's the fact that both guys are just kind of trying to do their moves independent of each other. And then halfway through, or like 3/4 of the way through, you get the kick to the ribs, and it's like, oh, this match effectively, you can tell that kick hurt because there's nothing else that could be done. Like it was over after that.
Right, because Fujiwara was trying to get his bearings back, and this feels like a fight, you know.
This
I know
once we got to
it
striking,
might
it felt like a
not
fight.
affect Greg as much because maybe, but this is more influential in like the mixed martial arts realm than actual pro wrestling. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of my notes here. Is the Japanese striking just looks better than everybody else's, and their submissions look more painful.
Yeah, those armbars weren't pretty deep.
Yeah, yeah. He wanted to apply that crossface chicken wing, and then that's sort of what changed the tide of the match. I thought, I thought they kept the grappling interesting too, which was the problem I had with the first match, where I just felt like the grappling they were just grappling to grapple. I felt like Fujiwara's control period was was more interesting here than in the Maeda match.
Probably fair. I'd say it's fair.
And I don't know if that's because Super Tiger. For those of you that don't know, Super Tiger's the original Tiger Mask. He founded this promotion, UWF, after the sport with a couple other guys from New Japan after they had a split. Basically, a lot of Japanese wrestling is just defections, and them coming back.
Okay.
But so this was the first of the New Japan defection. So, but I enjoyed this match. I enjoyed this a lot more than the Maeda match.
I thought this match was solid. I don't think I probably didn't enjoy it as much as you did, but
no, I still was like,
I thought this was solid. I thought it was just an overall solid match.
I gave it 4 stars.
Probably 3 3/4 for me, but I think it was still a very solid match.
Greg, what were your thoughts on this? You weren't sort of in this discussion.
Yeah, so this is another one where I don't really know that much. It's interesting because I was wondering if Super Tiger was related to Tiger Mask. And it was very jarring at first because this was the last of the matches that I watched, and coming from 3 matches with really hyped up English announced teams and packed arenas to this very small. The crowd wasn't quiet, but it was the classic respectful Japanese crowd, and no commentary. So that was very jarring for me. I did get into it though, and I did like it. I was confused by the ending though, because like what is the ref supposed to count up to? It felt like Fujiwara was on the ground forever, and I was
10.
waiting for the ref to just
It was a 10 count. It definitely was a 10
I
count.
think it's a 20 count.
Yeah, it felt like a 20 count. It felt like, and even when he got up, he seemed woozy, and I was like, well, in boxing, this would have been called off. Like,
Right. And that's what I'm thinking after he was kicked. That's exactly what I was thinking after he was kicked. Like, yo, just call the fight. He's not gonna get up. He's not getting up. Just call the fight.
And then just out of nowhere, there was a graphic that said winner, and I was like, okay, so I guess he won by knockout.
Yeah.
So I was a little confused by the ending, but yeah, no, the striking was awesome. The submissions were great, and it did tell a pretty good little story. At least from what I could decipher. I would say about
it's more of a grappler versus striker story.
Right.
Fujiwara being the grappler, Super Tiger being the striker, and some people think this is like one of the greatest matches of all time. I don't put it in that echelon, but this is one of the most influential matches of all time because it's like technical knockout, and it's so crucial to the shoot style and by proxy mixed martial arts, which mixed martial arts is based off of shoot style pro wrestling.
Okay.
That it's like one of the most important contributions.
I just think it's stylistically sound. I think both styles kind of mess with each other at points in the match, but ultimately, obviously, the striking style won. Solid match.
It is a solid. It's solid as fuck match. What? Um, solid match, and I just think I honestly enjoyed myself here just watching these matches.
These are
Honestly,
4 good matches. These are 4. This collection of 4 entertaining matches with a lot of different styles involved here.
so next week we have two from Texas and 2 from Japan. So we have Terry Gordy versus Killer Khan in a Texas death match with special guest referee Kerry Khan from WCCW World Class Championship Wrestling, 11/22/1984. We have Mitsuharu Misawa making another appearance on this show versus Jun Akiyama making his first appearance on this show. All Japan Pro Wrestling from February 27th, 2000. Then we have the famous Parade of Champions match where Kerry Von Erich wins the NWA World Championship, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I'll correct myself next time if that is the case. From 1985, from May 5th, 1985. Oh, Kevin Von Erich.
Okay.
Oh, Kevin Von Erich, not Kerry Von Erich. And then Kenta Kobashi and Jun Akiyama versus Kensuke Senzaki and Mitsuhiro Kitamiya from Diamond Ring to 2/11/2012. So we have 2 matches from 2000s and 2 matches. 1 match from 2000s, 1 matches from the 10s, and 2 matches from the 80s. From the same promotion.
Nice.
So, plug good, chug.
Twitter.com/Beast Mike is where you can find me. Obviously, we'll be talking about the pennant races that's coming down the stretch. College football is obviously back this weekend, and we got a NyQuil moment. That's not Shimev put in work, right? On Saturday night, UFC Chicago or UFC Vegas 11, where Shimev basically went one punch man on his opponent. That's
Yeah.
fight was over real quick. Round 1, I think I'm watching this again as I'm talking about it. They're kind of walking around. Things are cool. Delete. 15 seconds, one punch man. He is out before he hits the ground. Chim obviously with the NyQuil moment of the week. But yes, I'll be on the Twitters all weekend long talking about the baseball, the college football, doing what it does, and then obviously you got the NFL coming back week 3, coming back. My team plays tomorrow night. Dolphins play the Jaguars. So I'll be all over that. So that's where you can find me.
Greg, where can people find you? it's dropping out. Greg, where can people find you? I don't know why. Greg, can you hear us? I can just edit that part out. You can follow Greg at PSU Optimus, and you can see his YouTube channel Wrestling Optimus on YouTube. And then you can follow me at DJ Cooks on Twitter. You may have to disconnect and reconnect into the server because sometimes Discord does that. So hit the. But I covered your 2 plugs, Greg. Can you hear me, Greg? I'll just edit this part a little bit. Greg, are you fine?
At all?
Now I can hear you.
Yep, I got you now.
So what are your plugs, Greg? Oh. Of course, Discord fails us at the end.
Oh, yes.
DJ D Kooks on Twitter. Greg, what are your socials?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, got you now.
There we go. All right, I reconnected. You can catch me over on Twitter at PSU Optimus, or most of my work is over on YouTube. I do reviews of all the WWE and AEW stuff at Wrestling Optimus.
Yes. And then you can follow me at DJ D Kooks on Twitter. I'll be following the G1 Climax, which has been amazing. Which has been not as amazing as some other years, but still very good stuff. And you follow me for sports coverage too.
Yes, rest in peace, Gale Sayers. We should also mention that he passed away around like 9 o'clock this morning, 9:30 maybe. This morning, that's when the word got around that he passed off. He was 77. Rest in peace, Gale Sayers, a legendary running back.
Yeah, the Bears are my
Bears.
team.
Oh yeah, you're a Bears fan. Yeah, you can talk about how Gale Sayers was. They were talking about how he was an excellent receiver out of the backfield, but he was ahead of his time.
Yep.
He was Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey before Barkley and McCaffrey and LaDainian Tomlinson, those types of dudes.
Definitely. Yeah, no, he was a great player for the team. And yeah, not just another tragic passing in 2020.
Yep. Yep. So for Beast Mike and Greg, this is DJ D Kooks saying so long, farewell, Avidas, and goodbye. And then